Peppa and George were playing in the garden when they spotted a giant toy car rolling toward them. George quickly climbed into the toy car, took the wheel, and laughed happily as the car started rolling. Peppa tried to chase the car, but it was too fast, making her run after it. Mummy Pig saw them and reminded, "Be careful! Don't let the car roll too far!" Peppa and George took turns driving the toy car, going over small tree stumps in the garden. Finally, the toy car stopped, and Peppa and George got out, laughing joyfully from their fun adventure.
Peppa Pig and the Ducks. One day, after playing with their toys, the two sisters were very bored and decided to go outside to play. The two sisters crept up behind the little duck, but it spotted them, startling them both and making them burst out laughing.
Peppa and George couldn't believe their eyes when they saw a piece of bread flying through the air. They decided to chase the flying bread, but it was fast and looped around like a plane. It seemed like this piece of bread wasn't easy to catch, and it took a quick break on a tree branch. Surely this bread knew how to play tag, and Peppa seemed to be its favorite target. After an adventure, Peppa finally caught the flying bread and smiled happily. Finally, Peppa and George realized that sometimes the best adventures are when you can enjoy the fruits of your efforts.
Peppa Pig and her family went swimming. On a beautiful sunny day, Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were sitting in the car waiting for Peppa and George to go to the pool. The two sisters ran and jumped into the car to go with their parents. Peppa's whole family is on their way to the pool in high spirits. The whole family went to the swimming pool. The whole family went in. Everyone loved the pool. Whoa! Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig sat on chairs by the shore, watching over the two sisters. Peppa stood by the lake and jumped into the water with a splash. George walked onto the plank over the lake, jumped really high, and then fell into the water. Whoa! Peppa swam back and forth. George watched her swim, and the whole family had fun by the pool. Peppa Pig and the Mystery Box. Peppa and George are sitting and playing in the living room. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Huh? They both went outside to see what was happening at the door.
Outside, they found a small box filled with old toys and storybooks. They opened the box, giggling and marveling at each item with sparkling eyes.
Whoa!
Peppa and George brought all their toys inside and sat down to play happily together. Peppa Pig, a boat trip after the rain. One day, heavy rain lasted a long time, the rain falling continuously. Peppa and George just had a good night's sleep and woke up. After one night, the garden and the front path were flooded. Peppa and George went outside and were surprised to see water everywhere. Then a big boat arrived. It was Daddy Pig. He was driving a boat to pick up the whole family for a ride. The whole family boarded the boat together. The boat drifted slowly along the flooded streets. Houses and trees reflected on the water, sparkling in the sunlight. A gentle breeze blew, creating a relaxing and comfortable atmosphere. The boat continued to carry the family further, away from the familiar area, to a small island. The whole family went to an island. On that island, there was a tall lighthouse standing firm in the vast open space. Afterwards, the whole family happily continued on to even more interesting places.
Peppa Pig and her friends go to school. It was an ordinary day. The school bell rang, its sound echoing everywhere. At Peppa's house, Peppa and George were getting ready for school and climbing into Daddy Pig's car that was waiting for them. Daddy Pig drives the car with the two children and sets off for school. All three arrived just in time for class. Peppa and George got out of the car, said goodbye to their dad, and ran into their classroom. Looking into the classroom from the window, you could see George and Peppa, along with her other friends, sitting attentively listening to the teacher's lecture. The students sat quietly and focused during class. As the study time gradually passed, it was time to go home. At the end of a long school day, the students said goodbye to each other, and then everyone went home after a tiring day of studying.
Peppa and George were playing in the park when suddenly some balloons started floating in the air. Oh! Both of them decided to chase after the flying balloons, but they kept floating higher and higher. George jumped as high as he could to catch one, but sadly, he still couldn't reach it. Peppa found a chair to climb on, stretching her hands out, but the balloon floated even further away. Finally, one balloon gently floated down near Peppa and George, and they were thrilled to catch it. Peppa and George realized that sometimes the simplest joys bring the happiest moments.
Peppa Pig and the firefighters. On a beautiful sunny day, Peppa and George were happily strolling down the street. A little while later, the two sisters saw a fire truck driving down the road. Peppa and George were thrilled to see a fire truck for the first time. The two sisters ran home in a cheerful mood. When the two sisters got home and were about to tell Daddy Pig what had happened, he brought out a cardboard box. Daddy Pig started taking the secret items out of the box. They were firefighting suits. The two sisters were delighted and quickly went to the cardboard box, transforming themselves into little firefighters. Peppa and George admired the firefighter uniforms they were wearing and then jumped up and down excitedly. Peppa Pig and the Mud Rainbow. One night, it rained very heavily. Then the rain stopped, the sun rose, and Peppa and George woke up. Huh? The two sisters jumped out of bed and ran out to the playground. When they went outside, the two sisters were surprised to see many large puddles of mud after the rain. The two sisters ran to the mud puddle to play, jumping up and down and rolling around in the mud together. Yow! Then Peppa saw a puddle of mud with a rainbow on it. She went to take a look out of curiosity and loved it. Peppa ran back and jumped in the colorful mud. And then, unexpectedly, Peppa began to grow bigger and bigger, eventually becoming a giant. George approached Peppa, looking at her with a mixture of curiosity and fear because she was so big. After a while, Peppa returned to normal, and everyone happily talked about the fun things that happened after the rain. Peppa Pig and the seesaw toy. On a beautiful day, Daddy Pig, Peppa, and George were happily enjoying a drive in their red car. The three of them were walking past a toy store when Peppa suddenly spotted a very interesting rocking toy. It's a very lovely rocking horse. Peppa loves it and tries to imagine what she would do if she had it. Seeing this, the piglet had an idea and immediately ran home. He personally made a rocking horse for the two sisters, just like the ones in the shop. The two sisters were surprised to see the new toy and were delighted. Seeing this, the three pigs also laughed.
Peppa was surprised to see a strange hat on the grass.
Huh? Whoa!
George ran over and touched it, lights twinkling from the hat.
Whoa!
Peppa put the hat on. Bubbles of light floated across the garden. Magical indeed. George tried the hat too, bubbles swirling around them, making them laugh out loud. The bubbles rose and settled on the tree branches, sparkling in the sunlight. They took off the hat, bubbles faded, but the magical joy lingered in the garden.
Peppa Pig and the Shooting Stars. One evening, the sky was full of stars and Peppa and George were sitting outside their house gazing at them. Daddy Pig went outside and looked out the window and saw many stars. He suddenly remembered that he had binoculars in the attic. He took the binoculars outside and gave them to the two sisters so they could look at the stars in the sky more clearly.
네.
The two sisters climbed onto the roof to watch the stars. Through the binoculars, shooting stars unexpectedly appeared, streaking across the sky. The two sisters absolutely loved those shooting stars. The father pig told the two sisters to come down and watch with him. The two sisters made a wish, then slid down and experienced a starry night with Daddy Pig.
Peppa Pig and the Mountain of Bubbles. Today, Daddy Pig is washing the car, and Peppa and George discover lots of bubbles.
Wow!
Peppa and George think bubbles are amazing. Wow, look at that! A giant mountain of bubbles. Oh dear, Mummy Pig looks so funny as a bubble snowman. Playing with bubbles is fun, but playing together is the best fun of all.
Peppa Pig and the balloons in the sky. On a beautiful sunny day, Peppa and George were running and playing happily in the yard. Suddenly, Peppa spotted something under the tree, and George stopped to look as well. The two sisters ran to see what it was. Along with a large tree, there were many colorful balls floating in the air. The two sisters ran over and loved these balls. George went over and took one bunch of balloons, and Peppa took the other bunch. The two sisters ran off to play and were pulled up into the air by balloons. The two sisters flew over tall buildings and a blue sky. Flying over a beautiful sea. Finally, the shadows carried the two sisters home, bringing to a close their spectacular and joyful flight.
Peppa Pig and banana toys. On a beautiful sunny day with clear blue skies, Peppa and George were sitting together in their little kitchen eating bananas. The two sisters were having fun together when suddenly Peppa had the idea to go see some interesting things made of bananas. Peppa and George agreed, and together they ran out of the kitchen to go to see. The two sisters ran to the door and looked around for those items. After a while, they spotted it, and the two sisters ran over to see. The first thing the two sisters saw was a giant banana. Peppa pushed the banana, making it wobble back and forth. The two sisters then went to the next place, a house made of banana trees.
Peppa Pig and the race car. Peppa and George are playing chase together in their room. The two sisters ran outside and saw something that greatly excited them.
Whoa!
Those were two truly brilliant and beautiful racing cars.
Wow!
The two sisters were curious about the car, and Peppa wanted to try driving it. But contrary to her expectations, the car sped off.
Whoa!
George saw the object, burst out laughing, and drove along, following his sister. The two sisters walked together past the school and other streets. Finally, the two sisters arrived home and had a fun and memorable ride.
Peppa and George were walking when they discovered a mysterious vegetable garden with tall, colorful plants. George curiously touched a giant carrot, while Peppa picked up a pumpkin almost as big as her head.
Wow!
Mummy Pig entered the garden, smiling and said, "Look, kids, these vegetables are really special." Peppa and George played hopping through the tall plants, laughing joyfully across the garden. Daddy Pig appeared with a small cart so the whole family could harvest the vegetables together. Finally, the whole family stood in the garden, admiring the colorful pumpkins, carrots, and greens, happily taking a family photo.
Peppa Pig, the paper aeroplane. In the warm kitchen, Peppa and George were sitting together at the table. In front of them were neatly arranged sheets of colorful paper. Peppa began folding the paper, transforming the flat sheet into the shape of a small airplane. George worked diligently, and his airplane gradually took shape. Peppa and George have their own airplane. The two sisters ran into the room, each with their own hat.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Whoa!
Under the blue sky, the open space makes everything perfect for the game. Peppa gently tossed her airplane into the air. George also tossed his airplane. The two planes flew continuously at high altitudes and then crashed to the ground. Then the two sisters ran back and happily continued playing.
Peppa Pig and the cake. Today is a beautiful sunny day, so Mummy Pig decided to treat the whole family to cake, even though it's not anyone's birthday. Mummy Pig, along with Peppa and George, got in the car and drove to the cake shop. The mother and her two children walked past the large houses and buildings along the street. Finally, Peppa and George, along with their mother, arrived at the bakery with colourful cakes. The two sisters absolutely loved those cakes. After choosing their cakes, the mother and her two children got into the car and headed home. Mummy Pig carried the cake into the house, and the two sisters happily followed behind her. In that kitchen, the cake was shared among the whole family, and everyone happily ate it together.
Peppa Pig and the Bunch of Balloons. In the cozy living room, music was playing on the speaker, and Peppa and George were dancing to the rhythm. Their familiar toys surrounded them. In the middle is a bag of colourful balloons. Peppa started by blowing up her first balloon. The balloon slowly inflated, becoming round and radiant. George also tried to blow up a small balloon. Although a little slow, the balloon gradually grew larger in his hands. Before long, they had both blown up a lot of balloons. Peppa gathered them all together and tied them into a large bunch. The two sisters grabbed a bunch of balloons and ran out into the yard. Peppa and George ran around the yard, trailing a bunch of balloons behind them. The balloons bobbed, creating colorful movements. Laughter echoed throughout the garden as the two siblings played non-stop.
Peppa Pig and musical instruments. On a beautiful day, Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig were relaxing on the sofa in the living room. Suddenly, Peppa and George ran up and asked their parents to buy them a musical instrument. Mummy Pig agreed to let the three of them go shopping.
Wow!
Daddy Pig was sitting in the car, waiting for the two sisters, while Peppa and George happily jumped into the car. Daddy Pig started the car and drove with the two children to the music store. When they arrived, the two sisters were overwhelmed by the place. After selecting and buying the pigs, the two sisters took 3 pigs home. The mother pig came out and was surprised by the sisters' musical instruments. Peppa chose the big drum and she took the drumsticks and started beating it. George chose dice to create fun noises. A fun day for the whole family with musical instruments.
Peppa Pig and the Dairy Cow. Peppa's home ground is now covered in a lot of grass, growing in rows and thick clumps, one after another. Peppa is playing with her toy train, while George is assembling the back of the robot. Suddenly, something whizzed past the window, causing the two sisters to stop playing their game. The two sisters looked up and the thing whizzed past once more.
Wow!
Peppa and George decided to jump onto the chair to see what it was. And to their surprise, it was a dairy cow. The two sisters were about to reach out and pet the cow, but it ran away. So they ran out into the yard to check on it. When Peppa and George went outside to look around, they saw the cow standing and eating grass in front of the house. The cow was grazing by the roadside near Peppa's house, and Peppa and George went closer to watch it eat. Peppa and George were sitting watching when the cow approached them and brought its head close to George. George also reached out and petted the cow. The two sisters really liked the cow. Peppa Pig and the Giants. On a beautiful sunny day, Peppa and George were watching a cartoon, having a great time and laughing hysterically on the couch. Whoa! When the movie ended, the two sisters decided to go for a walk. Suddenly, the two sisters saw something extremely attractive, and they ran towards it. Those were enormous items, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. The two sisters walked around, looking at items that were bigger than their bodies. Peppa walked closer to the giant apple and hugged it, rubbing her face against the soft apple. George went back to the globe and looked at it carefully. He liked it very much and jumped up and down with joy. Peppa and George had a very enjoyable walk.
Peppa Pig baking with Mum. Today, Peppa's family is going to bake a wonderful cake. So Mummy Pig went to buy more flour because we ran out. Mummy Pig brought the flour inside, and in that little kitchen, the three of them baked bread together. Mummy Pig poured flour into a bowl on the table, while Peppa and George watched as their mother mixed the flour with water and eggs. Whoa! At the same time, Daddy Pig, with a hungry stomach, went into the kitchen. When he saw Mommy Pig making cakes, he was delighted. Then he talked to Peppa about how to make the cake, and the two of them chatted enthusiastically until Mummy Pig had finished baking the cake and put it on the table.
Peppa and her mother put layers of pre-made cream on the cake, and Peppa said it looked delicious.
Daddy Pig took the remaining cake out of the oven, while George played with his dinosaur.
Whoa!
The cake was finished, and the whole family enjoyed it.
Two Peppas appear, a surprise moment for George. Peppa walked into the room and cheerfully said, "Hello, George." George was playing with his toys and smiling, saying, "Hello, Peppa." Then Peppa went into a room. George continued playing with his toys. Suddenly, another Peppa appeared, cheerfully greeted George, and then ran off to another room. Much to George's surprise and confusion, I was wondering what was going on. The room felt cool and comfortable, and George was happily enjoying the moment. Peppa took a slow step forward and continued to greet George. George waved. When Peppa too arrived, George looked surprised and asked what was going on. There seemed to be something connecting the three of them, and they were all happy and cheerful together.
Peppa and George couldn't believe their eyes. A giant truck was parked right in their yard. This truck is not only big, but full of strange things inside. Peppa is curious and wants to try them all. George tried to push the giant wheel, but he might need a bit more strength to move it. No worries. Peppa decides to drive the giant truck, but it seems it's not as easy as she thought. Sometimes all it takes is a little push on the gas pedal to start an adventure, even if it's a bit out of control. Finally, the truck stops, and Peppa and George realize one thing. Sometimes, the fun starts with the most random things. Peppa and George ran outside to play as the rain started. They jumped into puddles, splashing water everywhere. Mommy Pig brought raincoats and reminded them, be careful, don't slip. Daddy Pig appeared with a big umbrella, sheltering Peppa and George from the rain. Peppa found a giant puddle, carefully jumped in, and laughed with joy. Finally, the whole family stood under the umbrella, watching Peppa and George dance in the rain, laughing together.
Peppa Pig and the non-melting ice cream. On a warm, sunny day, Peppa and George held a large ice cream cone. But something strange is happening. Even under the blazing sun, it retained its shape. George touched it and found it was still cold. Woo-hoo-hoo! Peppa found it funny when she saw that. Yippee! Then, suddenly, a tiny drop of cream appeared. It slowly melted and gently rolled down. Whoa! The strangeness gradually faded, and the ice cream returned to its normal state. Finally, a tiny drop began to melt. Even the strangest things only last for a moment. Peppa Pig and his visit to grandparents. In their familiar living room, Peppa's family was sitting together. The atmosphere was quiet, but a little boring, as no one could think of anything fun to play. Suddenly, Daddy Pig had an idea, and a short trip to his grandparents' house became a plan for the whole family. The whole family got into the car together, and all four of them happily went to their grandparents' house. Grandfather Pig and Grandma Pig were waiting for Peppa's family, and when they saw them, they waved. Peppa's family visited her grandparents' house. Peppa and George ran to hug their grandparents happily. Afterward, the whole family went to the garden to admire the lush green vegetable beds and spent a fun day together.
Peppa Pig and the Kite. Today is a day with little sunshine and wind. Peppa and George are playing tiptoe in the playroom. The two sisters took their kites and flew them around the room. Then they decided to go outside to fly them. The two sisters ran as fast as they could to go outside and play. Peppa and George, the two siblings, each have their own kite. The two sisters were running and playing with their kite when... Suddenly, the two sisters noticed the tree swaying in the wind and had the idea to tie their kites to the tree so they would move along with it. The two sisters tied their kites to a tree and they floated in the wind, swaying with the tree. The two sisters were very excited about flying their kites.
Peppa Pig and the strangely noisy clock. The two sisters were playing together until Peppa and George heard a strange sound they had never heard before. It turned out to be a clock, but not an ordinary clock. It was big, it was noisy, and it clearly liked to be the center of attention. Every time the clock hands moved, the entire garden seemed to tremble. George decided to touch it, and the clock immediately reacted with an even louder, very characteristic sound. Nobody knows what this clock is actually for, but it's very good at turning things into a game. Finally, the clock fell silent, and Peppa and George realized that time flies fastest when you're having fun.
Peppa and George were amazed when a giant ball rolled toward them. The ball was too big, but Peppa didn't give up and decided to push it. The rolling ball created funny circles, making Peppa laugh non-stop. George joined in, helping Peppa to control the giant ball together. When the ball hit a puddle, huge splashes sprayed everywhere, making them laugh even more. Finally, they realized that sometimes the greatest fun is just a giant ball and your own laughter.
Peppa Pig and the goats. Today, Peppa's whole family will go to visit the goat farm. Daddy Pig and Mommy Pig are waiting for Peppa and George. The two sisters quickly got into the car and set off with their family to the goat farm. Daddy Pig made sure everyone was seated. Then he started driving. Woo-hoo-hoo! The path to the farm had windmills on the other animals' houses, which Peppa and George found very interesting. After a while, Peppa's family arrived at the farm gate, and they all went inside to see the animals. Whoa! There were some very beautiful goats in the pen. Some were walking back and forth, while others stood still with their heads held high. Peppa's family went to the goat shed and looked at the goats. Peppa and George went closer to see what they were doing in there. The two sisters were afraid of making any noise and startling the goat, so they covered their mouths. Suddenly, a little goat came from outside and lifted its head towards George. Seeing this, George reached out and petted the little goat, and the whole family had a wonderful outing. Peppa and the Banana Slide. After a long night, dawn broke. The sun was high in the sky, and Peppa was asleep when she heard a noise. The little girl sat up and looked to see what the noise was. Downstairs, Daddy Pig was building a slide for the two sisters. Whoa! Seeing this, Peppa woke George up so they could go down and see Daddy Pig together. The two sisters got out of bed and ran quickly out into the yard. The two sisters went out and saw Daddy Pig sweating profusely while building the slide. Daddy Pig saw the two sisters and called them over to see the results of his work. Whoa! Peppa and George were very excited to have new toys. George was the first to slide down the banana-shaped slide,
Then Peppa slid down. The two sisters landed beautifully, and everything was filled with joy. Yoo-hoo! George slid down the slide again, feeling very happy because Daddy Pig had made him a new toy.
Peppa and George were walking near a sparkling crystal clear lake.
Whoa!
Peppa set a paper boat out on the water, and George watched it float gently. Daddy Pig brought a small paddleboard, suggesting they could have a boat race. Peppa and George paddled lightly, laughing as their boat glided across the lake. Mommy Pig stood by the lake, taking pictures and reminding them, don't go too far. Finally, the whole family stood by the lake, admiring the sparkling water and enjoying a peaceful moment.
Daddy Pig transformed into a giant chicken. Today is a pleasantly sunny day, and Daddy Pig is taking a walk and exercising in the yard. Sweat was pouring down. He continued his journey to other places, eventually arriving at a small village. Daddy Pig saw a pear tree with lots of pears on it. But strangely, there was only one ripe fruit on the tree. Daddy Pig thought it was delicious and ate it. It tasted delicious, but suddenly something strange happened, and boom! Daddy Pig suddenly turned into a giant chicken. Daddy Pig, in a strange mood, went home, and Peppa and George, who were out looking for him, happened to run into him. He sat down and looked at Peppa and George. Peppa came closer and poked him, when suddenly, Daddy Pig's stomach farted. Everything was as confusing as when Daddy Pig ate the pear, and then Peppa and George were surprised that Daddy Pig had returned to his original form. It was all so confusing. Peppa Pig and Daddy Pig plant flowers. On a beautiful sunny day, Daddy Pig took a hoe and went to plant flowers. He went to where the flower pots were and looked at them one by one. Then he used a hoe to dig up the soil to plant the flower pots. Peppa and George ran out of the house to the flower pot, and the two sisters decided to plant some flowers to help Daddy Pig. The two sisters carried the two flower pots and placed each one into the hole that Daddy Pig had dug. The flower pots were gradually placed into the hole in the ground designated for them. Although tired after planting the flowers, the two sisters were very happy because they had a beautiful flower garden. Peppa Pig and her grandparents go to the beach. Today was a pleasantly sunny day, and Grandpa Pig and Grandma Pig came to Peppa's house to play with the two kids. Grandma Pig knocked on Peppa's door to call the two sisters. The two sisters ran out, and together they rushed into their grandparents' cage to cuddle. Then Peppa and George, along with Grandpa Pig and Grandma Pig, went for a walk to the beach. Everyone walked together along the cool blue beach and soft sandy shores. After strolling along the beach, the two sisters went diving into the sea to play. George put on his snorkel and watched the water flowing around him. Peppa swam to the coral reefs, admiring the bubbles that weaved through the coral. The two sisters swam back and forth in the water, laughing happily together. Peppa Pig and the Umbrella. Peppa and George are sitting and watching the rain fall from the window. Suddenly, the two sisters had the idea of asking Daddy Pig and Mommy Pig for permission to go outside and play in the rain.
Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig agreed to let the two sisters go outside to play.
The two sisters quickly ran out into the hallway to get umbrellas to shield themselves from the rain. George took the blue umbrella and Peppa took the pink umbrella. Peppa grabbed her umbrella and ran after George to play outside. When the two sisters got to the door, they shouldn't have watched the rain. Suddenly, George noticed a large puddle of water created by the rain. The two sisters excitedly ran into the puddle and jumped up and down in it. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig came out, saw what was happening.
Peppa Pig plays with water guns. Today, Susie the sheep, Peppa's best friend, came to Peppa's house to play. Susie arrived at Peppa's house and knocked on the door. Peppa happily greeted her friend. They both went inside the house. Peppa had just given Susie a toy water gun and they were heading into the bathroom to play. The two of them started a water gun fight, Peppa cautiously looking around for a place to hide. Peppa chose the bathtub as her hiding place, while Susie the sheep went to look for Peppa. Susie cautiously glanced around and spotted Peppa. She aimed and shot water at Peppa. Peppa was hiding when she suddenly got wet, so she quickly shot water back at Susie the sheep. The two children were playing so much that neither of them got dry, but they both had a lot of fun. Peppa Pig and the Secret Room. Peppa was happily playing in the living room when she suddenly discovered a small door leading to the basement. She wondered what surprise awaited her inside. Peppa pulled George closer and opened the secret door. The two siblings stepped into the dimly lit room, their hearts pounding with curiosity, light filtering through a small window. Peppa and George quickly ran down to the basement, and right at the bottom, they found a pile of old toys, cars, dolls, and other toys they had once loved. Wow!
Peppa and George eagerly approached the pile of toys, their eyes sparkling with joy as they reminisced together. They gathered the toys and returned to the living room to show them to their mother and father. Mother Pig walked in and smiled when she saw Peppa and George happily playing with their old toys. The whole family gathered in the room. Laughter echoed throughout the room, making everyone feel even closer.
Peppa Pig's treasure hunt. On a beautiful sunny day, George and Peppa ran and played together, from inside the house out into the yard. Suddenly, the two sisters saw strange arrow markings. Where did they lead? Whoa! At the same time, Daddy Pig came out with a treasure map and gave it to Peppa and George to help them find the treasure. The two sisters ran to look at the map in Daddy Pig's hand, took it, and then followed the arrows to find the treasure. The two sisters followed the arrows step by step. The two sisters excitedly ran towards the treasure. When the two sisters arrived at the place as shown on the map, Peppa and George looked around and discovered the hidden treasure. When George dug it up, he found a treasure chest full of gold coins, much to the delight of the two sisters. Peppa Pig and the Strange Clouds. On a beautiful, sunny day, the high hills were covered with layers of mist at their base. Meanwhile, at home, Peppa and George were gazing at the clouds in the sky. Being bored at home, the two sisters went outside to look at the sky and the clouds. Wow! There was a hill from which they could clearly see the clouds, and the two sisters went to that hill. Peppa stood watching the gentle clouds drifting overhead, thoroughly enjoying herself. George watched the cloud drift towards him until he fell to the ground and burst into hearty laughter. Clouds shaped like animals drifted across the sky, marking a peaceful and joyful day for the two sisters.